Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I thought today we'd talk about one of the most famous solos in the history of jazz, and that's Miles Davis' incredible trumpet solo on So What from his Kind of Blue record. Now, many of you might know this album and this particular track already. Kind of Blue is like one of the most iconic, I think it's the biggest selling jazz album of all time. And it has a number of famous tracks on it, but So What is possibly the most iconic. Now, I'm going to put up on the screen, somewhere around here, some of Miles' solo for you to check out as well. This is in bass clef. We're not going to look at all of it. We're just going to look at the first 8 or 16 bars. And I'm just going to take you through it bar by bar, and we're going to look at some of the ideas in there. Okay. So, on the opening, Miles plays this figure. He goes... So that's basically the opening part of Miles' solo. It also sounds really nice if you play it up here. So there's so many great phrases just in the beginning of this. Let's just check out the first couple of bars. So this opening phrase, I'll play this as written, although it sounds really good if you play it an octave higher as well. So the opening phrase, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Let's just look at that. Now, the first thing to notice is this wide intervallic leap that Miles brings out in this phrase. So he starts on a high D, it's actually here. And then he goes down to the minor 7th of the D minor chord and then drops to the octave root. This is just a cool idea straight away. We have the root, the 7, and down to the octave root below. So, Now, before we even go any further, let's look at that. So if we were to harmonize that lick or that line through the prevalent tonality, which we always talk about this as being more or less a classic example of modal Dorian harmony. The bass line, right, has a B natural in there, the major 6th. So this is perfectly outlining that Dorian minor. Dorian, second mode of the major scale. So D minor, D Dorian derived from C major. If we take this idea where you play the first note as your starting note, and then you go down a diatonic second scale step, and then drop down a 7th from there, which is the octave below the original note. So I go D, C, and down to the D again, but an octave below. There's our phrase. So what if I was to play that idea up through D Dorian? So I go... All right, see what I did? I just took D Dorian as a scale, right? And I played this line through it, harmonizing it using the Dorian mode, all right? So we've got one bar into the solo, and already we've got a really cool idea. Now, what I tend to say to all my students when we're studying transcriptions is the first thing you get inside the transcription, play it as is. Try and match it with whoever played the original solo. Like, play along, really get inside that. Try and make your bass sound like Miles' trumpet. But beyond that, you want to really make that lick your own. You don't borrow it, you steal it. It's always the classic expression. Okay, so let's continue. So if we look at those next 3 or 4 bars, like bars 2, 3, 4, and into 5, right? Miles is using really quite a simple motif here, and he's kind of playing back and forth with it. So these first notes, this phrase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. This is a root, 5th, 4, 5, and then he doubles up on the root again. It's almost like a little question and answer thing. Those punctuated Ds at the end of these lines just feel like kind of an answer to the question of the preceding section of the phrase, right? So this is all really, to me, it's like, it's not really fully describing Dorian yet. It's really a minor pentatonic or part of a minor pentatonic. You've got root, 5, 4, 5, 1, and then this next phrase So this is root, minor third, 5, 4, 5. So that's all really a minor pentatonic, isn't it? Just missing out the 7th, root, minor third, 4 and 5. But I love the way Miles toggles back and forth with this. Now, the next phrase to me is one of the most iconic lines in the solo. Yeah, so that's the first time we hear that overt sound of the Dorian harmony in the line, because we have that minor 7, the C, going down to the B natural, the major 6th, that Dorian 6 sound, back to the C, the minor 7, back to the B, then into the 5th, the A, and so on. So that really is beautiful, the way Miles doesn't give that away straight away. He uses sort of a fragment of minor pentatonic harmony, and then that B natural comes in to give you that Dorian flavor. It's really fantastic. He also really kind of like is a little more laid back, his phrasing when he plays that as well. So it really kind of adds a great color and tension to it. So there's two things to look at straight away here as well. Is that introduction now of a new harmonic flavor or color in your palette. But secondly, a rhythmic tension here, yeah, which is really nice. You can see there's a real sense of, to me, this is a perfect example of a solo having question and answer, right? So there's a like back and forth, almost a dialogue with himself that Miles has here. And there's always space between these phrases. You know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that feels like the first statement, yeah? And then if we look at 1, 2, bar 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it feels like Miles is referring back to that opening statement as well. So it feels very cohesive, doesn't it, too? And then we have this really nice high D again. Yeah? And I have to play this an octave lower on this bass. And the next phrase, clearly this is resuming that minor pentatonic sound, right? Yeah? So we've gone from a partial kind of minor pentatonic idea into that Dorian flavor, then back to a reiteration, a restatement of that minor pentatonic sound, which is really beautiful on this. So as I look at this, we're like, okay, so we've got that really nice intervallic leap, which we're going to be playing as an idea, right? And then we have this fragment of the minor pentatonic. Yeah, this is so nice, all of these things. Let's just take a partial phrase, not even the Dorian part of that line, but after the Dorian phrase, here. Look at that pattern. So it goes 3rd, 5th, right? 4, 5, and then doubles up on the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah? That's just a great line, isn't it, right? So whenever we get a small, like a short phrase like that, let's kind of dive into it and find it on the instrument. And what I would do this to is learn it everywhere. The beauty of the bass guitar, of course, is the symmetry of it. When you're changing keys, if you find a good fingering, it works, you know, throughout the keys, generally speaking. So the first thing I do is go learn that line. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bar 7, that line there, but starting on the F, right on the minor third, just this. So I could play it this way with my pinky on the minor third, right? Play here. Play it that way with my second finger on the F, the minor third, right? Different fingering. Here. Here, different fingering. See what I mean? Because you never know, this is something I also say to my students a lot, is when you're improvising, taking a solo, you don't know necessarily you're going to be in a certain place on the fingerboard when you're playing a certain line. So the more fingering options you have, the better. I also want to talk about a phrase that Miles plays a little bit later, because to me, it's one of the most incredible phrases, and it's incredible for its simplicity, but for its beauty. And it's literally just using the notes from a triad, from a D minor triad. And the phrase is this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That. Just that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Play it here. That's such a great phrase. And the thing about this is I think horn players often see things differently to us as bass players. As bass players, even though we're very used to playing roots, the way Miles plays that, but then he leans back into the fifth, right? It's so fantastically sort of groovy. It's got such a great weight to it, that phrase. And it's so simple, but it's such a memorable phrase. So it shows you that even taking very simple pieces of information, if you phrase it well, you really can get a lot of mileage out of it. So I think this is a really fantastic solo, and hopefully these little pointers will give you something.